Hi, I'm Steve Adubato. We are producing remotely on the 8th of April. This program will be seen later. Most importantly, we wish that you and pray that you and your family are doing well right now, hanging in there in these difficult times. We are not the news, NJTV News. Metro Focus focuses on the news every day. You can find other sources. We're looking at the long-term implications of this very challenging and difficult virus. And we are now pleased to be joined by our good friend, Marsha Atkind, who is Executive Director, CEO of the Healthcare Foundation of New Jersey. Marsha, great to speak with you.
Great to speak with you too, Steve. Thanks for covering this really important issue.
Well, Marsha, we've had more conversations. I've bothered you an awful lot in these weeks and continue to ask, and you've been helpful in trying to help us focus on what we need to focus on. Not talking about the numbers, not talking about the curve, not talking about any of these issues. Nonprofits, the entities that the Healthcare Foundation funds, how at risk are they, A, and B, how important is it that they survive?
Oh, my goodness. I think they're enormously at risk. And I think their importance is something that lots of people don't realize. Nonprofits are an integral part of our community. They help people with special needs. They help people with HIV/AIDS. They run schools. They run a lot of our cultural institutions. So even networks like NJTV and PBS and online news sources like NJ Spotlight, which are some of the most critical sources of factual reporting, are at risk. Fundraisers can't be held. They're being canceled. So there's a lot of online virtual outreach, but we don't know whether that's going to yield the same kind of dollars that fundraising events have yielded in the past. So a lot of these organizations are operating greatly at risk. I mean, we don't know if they're going to be able to survive. I'm not talking necessarily about the larger institutions, although they're at risk too. I mean,
everyone is.
Performing arts centers, the museums, it's enormous. We're seeing all the time agencies coming to us saying either I had to lay off staff, and therefore I have to work very differently and I need different kinds of tools to accomplish my mission, or I have no volunteers anymore because people have been afraid to go out there, or we don't have the equipment for them. So I have to hire different staff. I have to work differently and I have to hire different staff. And that costs me more money. So, how am I going to negotiate this new reality?
Couple things. First of all, let me disclose that the Healthcare Foundation of New Jersey is an underwriter of ours. We are a not-for-profit.
Right.
We are struggling, and we're not here to beg. We're not here to say we need your help. Public television does. They are our partners, but I also want to make clear that we've made those tough decisions. We have laid off for the first time in over 25 years. We've cut costs everywhere, but I'm confident that we will survive and continue to do what we're doing. But Marsha, do you think people understand that if some of these not-for-profits whose margins are very tight and do not have significant reserves, that the implications for the most vulnerable citizens would be devastating?
I'm not sure that everyone understands that. And I think that, frankly, when we're taping this anyway, which is, in April, toward mid-April, everybody's afraid. Everybody's thinking about their own family and their own acquaintances and friends. And maybe they're thinking about their neighborhood stores that are closed and worried about whether those stores are going to be open. What they may not be thinking about is that if those stores don't open, the people who were employed in those stores are out of work, and they're out of work now. There are more people who are homeless now. There are more people who are food insecure now, who don't know where their next meal is going to come from because they're unemployed. And the loans that are out there for small businesses, we're hearing, are not that easily accessible, at least at this point in time. So we don't really know long term what's going to happen to those businesses. And I think that the landscape, in every sense of that word, is going to really change.
It's interesting. We actually taped with Marsha and a group of other not-for-profit leaders. Marsha's, the organization Marsha heads up, the Healthcare Foundation of New Jersey, funds a lot of important not-for-profits, ours just being one. But we actually decided not to air that program because we taped it just a little bit before things were getting bad. And we said, wait a minute, that doesn't even work anymore. The world is different. The new world order is different. The world of nonprofits is different. Marsha, there's a new organization. We'll talk to those folks separately, but we were talking offline. There's actually a new organization that's been created to help support not-for-profits that we're talking about out of Newark. Am I correct?
Are you talking about the pooled fund?
Yeah, I don't want to get that wrong. We'll get the details on it, but tell us what it is as you understand it.
Okay, it's what I'm talking about is not an organization so much as it is a collaboration of funders to award grants for the short term and the medium term and the long term to help nonprofits weather this storm, weather this plague. And it's housed at the United Way, but a lot of us have contributed to it. So the Healthcare Foundation contributed a six-figure grant, in addition to another $1 million that we have already allocated. And I expect that by the time this airs, we will have allocated even more to do emergency COVID-19 granting to our grantees. We wanted to make a really simple process and not require financial statements and all the things we generally would require for a grant. So we sent out a request for proposals to our grantees, and we've gotten at this point over 40 requests. I can't even tell you how busy we've been trying to prioritize and figure out where the money is most needed. And these are all immediate requests that we're funding. There will be more for medium term and longer term support.
Let's also clarify one more thing. Marsha, it's fair to say, it's accurate to say that a significant number of hospitals are not-for-profits.
Oh, yes, absolutely. In our community here in the Essex County area where the Healthcare Foundation functions, I can really only think of one that's not, and that's St. Michael's in Newark. But
that's a for-profit entity. Everyone else is a not-for-profit.
That's right. But Claramas and Trinitas and Newark Beth Israel and St. Barnabas Medical Center and Morristown Medical Center are all not-for-profit hospitals. And, they are, as everyone knows, because everybody's been watching the news, I'm sure, they're overwhelmed by what's been going on. So we've been giving them funding for University Hospital. I left that one out, sorry.
Yes.
We've been giving them funding for personal protective equipment, except in the case of University Hospital, which got a very large anonymous donation from somebody. They came to us and asked us for air mattresses and toiletries and support for food so that their staff, which is working so many long hours, can stay in the hospital safely and be able to sleep in the hospital and not have to either endanger their families or make that trip back and forth, which just adds to their day. So we gave them a grant for that.
By the way, to Marsha Atkind's point, Dr. Sharif Elnahal, who is the CEO at University, former Commissioner of Health in the state of New Jersey, will be joining us in a future remote interview to talk not just about where we are today or the numbers, the statistics, the clinical aspect of this, but again, the long-term societal healthcare impact. Marsha, you have put in perspective, and I assure you, and I promised you offline as well as everyone watching right now, we're going to help folks understand the importance of the not-for-profit community, not just because it's a nice thing to do, it's a critically important thing to do for us to understand the long-term implications. Marsha Atkind from the Healthcare Foundation of New Jersey, cannot thank you enough for joining us. Be safe and be well.
Thank you. You too, Steve.
We'll be right back right after this.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation. Funding has been provided by R.W.J. Barnabas Health, the Russell Berry Foundation, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, Investors Bank, the Northward Center, New Jersey Sharing Network, United Airlines, NJM Insurance Group, and by the Fidelco Group. Promotional support provided by ROINJ and by Meadowlands Chamber. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area.